For this problem, we want to find the zeros of the function, and a quick way of finding our zeros, or at least one zero, is to put the function into your calculator. So I'm going to do that in the y equals screen, and you can see that here. I have x cubed plus 10x squared plus 33x plus 34. So I've got that in y equals. And then I can either look at the graph or look at the table. And in this case, I'm going to look at both to see what I come up with. And hopefully I see a zero that's very easy to identify. Now I do have one rational zero that's very easy to identify. Oops. And that is where x equals -2. You can see it on both the graph and on the table. When x is -2, the y value is 0. So that's how I'm going to start factoring this, and I'm going to continue that on the next screen. Okay, so I'm going to use synthetic division in order to divide out this factor of -2, or the 0 -2, I should say. The factor is x plus 2. And so I bring down the 1, multiply by a -2, and then I add. So it's 10 plus a -2 gives me 8, and -2 times 8 is a -16. 33 minus 16 is 17, and -2 times 17 is -34, which I'm very happy to see because that gives me 0. So now I have one factor, which is x plus 2, because it's always x minus your 0, so it's x minus a -2. That's how we got x plus 2. And then my other factor that I have so far is x squared plus 8x plus 17. But we need to factor this down to linear factors, right? Yeah, I just went back and double checked to make sure, and we want to get down to linear factors, which means if it becomes imaginary, then it becomes imaginary. Now there's a couple of ways to do this. So let's take the x squared plus 8x plus 17 to the next screen. And here I can do one of two things. I can set this equal to 0. And either way, I'm really setting this equal to 0, and I'm looking to factor this and find what are the solutions of this equation. Those are going to be my zeros. So I can solve this by completing the square. And I have x squared plus 8x equals a -17. And I'm going to add 16 to both sides. And that gives me x squared, well, let's just go x plus 4, quantity squared, equals a -1, square root both sides, and then I have x plus 4 equals, this is a plus or minus, so it's plus or minus I. So x equals -4 plus or minus I. So completing this square actually makes this a much quicker problem, in my opinion. But what you could also do is use the quadratic formula. And so for that, I'm going to have x equals -b, -8, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 64, minus 4 times a times c. That's 4 times 1 times 17, and 4 times 17 is, what, 68 over 2a, and this equals -8 plus or minus the square root of -4 over 2, and so that's -8 plus or minus 2i over 2, and that gives me -4 plus or minus I. So either way, I have -4 plus or minus I. So let's go back to the previous screen, and now we can finish writing our product of linear factors. So we have x plus 2 times x minus, seriously,